Hello world, welcome back. So I am back with my afternoon live stream on Friday, and there is a few things I forgot to talk about in my morning stream, so I'm going to do that here right at the beginning. And the first thing is that I've already tweeted about it. Basically, I'm changing my streaming schedule. I've been streaming Wednesday and Friday, Wednesday in the late evening and on Friday on the afternoon. And I'm moving the stream from the Wednesdays to the Friday mornings. So starting Friday 11 Central European Time, and basically streaming until like 5 p.m. with a lunch break in between, which I just had. So that's like the start now officially. That's my new streaming schedule. At the same time, next week I will be on a vacation. Like I'm indie developer, I obviously can work at any time, but yeah, there's like my family, other people also, and they are not all indie developers. So my wife is taking off vacation next week, so I have vacation automatically too. At least that's the rule that I've set up for myself. And so next week I'm on vacation, which means that there will be no streams on Friday. And also I will not be writing my blog posts that I have also started writing every Wednesday, which I also state here. So no content from me next week as I'm on vacation, but I'll be back in 2 weeks from now. That being said, you can in the meantime watch all the previous videos of basically my work on the open focus timer. And you can also find playlists, for example, for body crouch. In the morning today, we worked on a new body crouch release. So obviously I will also list that here in this list. And you can basically look up, and if you don't follow me there yet, make sure to subscribe. The name I have there is FlyingDev. Having that out of the way, let's get back to our focus timer. And we have been working on a focus timer a little bit already, with a small custom shape that we have added for the progress view, but let's continue from there. And this is basically what we have worked on. And we had been actually wanting to fix this here instead, so prevent the reflection part of windows on my jump around. And that is, I think, fixed by now, because we have actually done that. And I think this also needs to be stated here. So this is fixed. Oops. Let's see what's the next things that we can focus on. Relaxman, welcome to the stream. Kolay gelsin kardeşim. Teşekkür ederim. Nasılsın? Ne yapıyorsun? Sende ne var ne yok? Just asking me how I am, and I'm all great. So animated progress view value changes, fix more warnings. Sağ ol dostum, iyiyim ben de. Memnun oldum. İyi ki hepimiz iyiyiz bu zamanlarda. Okay. Animated progress view value change. This is something we have actually done. So I think for now this is also kind of done. And then we wanted to focus on fixing more warnings. And I want to have a look at a few warnings that we can maybe fix quickly. Udemy kursuna devam ediyorum. JavaScript yoğunlaşmış durumdayım. So they're continuing to work on a Udemy course and have improved on JavaScript basically. Can I answer in English? Do you understand that? Then I don't have to translate to Turkish. But basically, that's great to hear. So you are a JavaScript developer. Do you do JavaScript with React Native? So do you do it on mobile? Or is it a website? What is your focus? Do you develop mobile or websites? Yeah, let's have a look at some of these warnings. There's a lot of them. And if we switch to the Mac app, or the iOS app, doesn't really matter. We have 16 of them. So let's just have a look at some of them and see if we can do anything there. So I will start at the bottom. Website, when I learn enough JS, then I go React. I see. So good luck on your journey. Are you learning right now? Are you coding right now on the site, or what is like your current doing? Are you just watching? So let's see the warning here. So we had this warning here is saying basically that we want to, what's the try is trying to fetch something from our database. And when there is an error while doing that, we are catching the error and we're just fatal erroring. So we're not handling the error properly, and we could fix that now. I am trying to make a CSGO matchmaking platform. That sounds interesting. So it's like for Counter-Strike players, matchmaking. Is that going to be like an extra app that, and then you can basically enter your strength, or how does the matchmaking work? How is the strength calculated? That sounds interesting to me. So we could now add some actual error handling here. So this is the app entry point, and we are fetching data from the data. Probably in the case that fetching data from a database doesn't work, it's a serious issue, and we probably can't do much here other than basically saying, hey, this doesn't work. So we might want to add here some reporting, some crash reporting, analytics, and things like that. I'm not sure if I'm already there yet. Maybe this is for when analytics is ready. When app is ready for analytics, let's put it like that. Crash reporting. We're not there yet. Analytics and crash reporting is something I usually add towards like getting closer to release or to alpha or beta release. So that's maybe the situation where we want to work on that. Let's go to the next one. Ask for categories and focus topic. So this is here. I want to ask for categories and focus topic. So this is currently missing. I like Faceit or EC, if you know. No, I don't know these. I'm not a CSGO player myself. People register website and they find match for 5 versus 5 competitive matches. So with matchmaking, you basically mean that it's like a community platform where people can meet others who are also CSGO players. Is that what it's about? Because matchmaking to me sounded more like it's matching players of the same strength to players of the same strength. That's like what I understand under matchmaking as someone who likes to play, or who liked to play Warzone, where matchmaking means basically that. That's cool, yeah. And go for it. You should always do something that you need yourself, and I guess you're a CSGO player yourself, so that's cool. There's balanced teams. I see, so there is some strength and matchmaking in there. Sounds like some logic needed there, so sounds like a lot of fun to have for you. You can also play around with the UI. It's not something that people will like. There's nothing you can destroy there. It's just about games and matchmaking, so it's always nice to play around with these kinds of projects. So ask for categories and focus topic. And we had, just to go back on the features we want to have here, we wanted to have categories, each gets its own editable color, etc. And on the reflection, we have already these fields now. So if we look at the app, we have these fields. But I want to also have like a category for the current session. So when I have a timer running for like 25 minutes, I want to tag it somehow with something that I can later get statistics on these specific things. For example, I want to say I'm working now on the project Open Focus Timer, or I'm working on the project Barty Crouch. Those are 2 separate projects. But at the same time, when I'm working on the app, on the project Focus Timer, I might want to also today focus on the design part of the Focus Timer. So I want to also label it like both the Open Focus Timer project, and also I want to label it the design. And I want these tags to be grouped into like a category group. That's what we called it. If we go back to our database, so data model, we go back to our database, we have the focus timer with all the start, end, and the running state. Then we have rich text entries, which is basically a blob of text. And then we have the to many relationship from focus timer to rich text entries for learnings, next steps, problems, etc. And then we also have categories assigned to them. And categories basically just has a color, has an icon, and a name. So for example, a category could be project, project Open Focus Timer. That could be a category, or just Open Focus Timer. Another category could be Barty Crouch. And then I want to have also a category group where the name of the group, for example, here could be project, and then I know due to the relation of category to category group that open focus timer is of a category of type projects. And then I can have also design and coding and things like that, which are all categories of type work type, for example, something like that. And other users could create their own, but in my case, these two are the ones that I personally need. And currently we don't have a way to assign categories or groups to timers, so that's something we could actually focus on. And that's coming from one of these warnings. So I have basically had a look into the warning, and we have come up with another feature that we could add, and that's to add category. First, probably we need to be able to choose category. So let's do that first. And choose category, a category for each existing category group. So how I will first, in the first version at least, do it is each category group you define has to be a required field to be filled out with a category when you work on a session. So yeah, we just need to choose one for each category group when starting or ending or during a timer. So whenever you should be able to change it, but it should be connected directly to a focus timer. Then we want to of course also add basically add the feature to create new categories and add feature to create new category groups. So the way I want to tackle this is I want to first hard code some categories, the ones that I need, into the app, and then later, either in a later version or just in a later state of the development, we could make these also configurable. And I'm not sure if we really need that. Like for me, I don't need that for the very first version, so we might actually move that to a later time. And for now, we just make them choosable. Or wait, I think it makes sense to make the categories at least creatable. But because like for example, if I have a project category group, I might want to add myself new projects without changing the code. But the category groups I will hard code for now. I think that makes sense. Hard code category groups for now. And yeah, I think that's something that we can focus on right now. It will automatically make this getting closer to being usable. I guess once that's done, let's have a look at some more warnings here. Extract progress bar into its own view. This is a simple one. We could actually do that just now. And yeah, this should be easy enough, so I will just do it right away. So this is the code. I want to extract it to its own view. And I guess this is something that we could reuse in other places, but to be honest, I don't plan to reuse it anywhere else. I think I just have one view where I will be using it, and that's this. So I will just keep it in a timer feature for now. I will just, let's just create a folder. I could call it view components. Should we call it view components? Let me just not do a new view. Let's just add it here. I'll just call it custom progress view. Very simple. Want it right there, and then import SwiftUI. And yeah, we should probably use the template here that Xcode provides. Just saying I'm creating a SwiftUI view. And let's rename it. To custom progress view. Now we can just add this to the body. Reindent. We are already in. Now let's switch to the timer feature. Build. And we are missing the view store, of course. So what we need to do is add a binding here, I would say. So do we have binding? Was it add binding? I forgot already. I haven't used the binding for a long time. Add binding SwiftUI. I think that's what it was named. I've always been using binding directly. And state. You could also go for state, just use a local state. Let's do it like that. So we just have a local state and we just call it current progress, just a double. And then we can just use current progress here. And likewise here. Is it running? This is another state we need to know. That state or timer is running. It's bool. Timer is running. Same here. Timer is running, and let's use a self-reference to make it clear that this is a property. And of course we need to pass some data here in our preview. So let's do just recreate. Timer is running, let's put it to true and progress to 0.75. Also document this, the current progress as a value between 0 and 1. Completed. Just to be clear here on the ranges, although this is implicitly the case always for on iOS development, I think it's a good idea to just make this more clear. So that's that. And now the progress should actually build. Let's rename this as well. I don't know why it doesn't. Let's see the preview. So there we go, this is the preview, and we want to see the variants. So preview variants, extension that we've done so we can see it in light mode, in dark mode, and also on iPhone. Although in this case, I expect because this is like a custom shape that we're changing, that it looks exactly the same on all platforms. Anyways, let's now replace our reference here with our new view, which is our custom progress view. And then we just pass values, which were, let me look it up, let me go back. Store, focus time, current progress, and running. View store, focus timer, current progress, and view store, focus timer. Auto completion, come on, you can do it. Okay, count, and it's called running. It expects it expects a double boolean. Let me go back. So timer's running. Did I mix it up? Oh yeah, I mixed it up. So we just move this up. This down. There we go. Now this should look exactly the same as before. Let's see the preview. Let's see if it actually does look like before. Okay, it is telling us that something didn't work. Well, let's run the app because in the preview we have the state of a non-running focus timer, so it's really very useful. Instead, let's just go to the live app, and we can see that this is not working. So something is wrong here. And it could be that we are not passing bindings here, maybe. Timer is running. We change something in the logic. Not really, so I believe this is actually a binding issue, so I will go for... I want to go for binding, but it was add binding, or do I need to specify that the binding type directly? Binding. Yeah, there is add binding. Okay, I just saw it there. So I'll just change it to binding. IFA bills and just pass a constant value here. Test. For the preview, I mean, for the preview here, it should look nice again. For sure. I also want to see what happens if I put timers running to false. But we're getting an error elsewhere. It's here. So we need to create a binding here. Actually, I think we don't really need a bind. I don't know why it was not working. I don't think that binding is the right issue, as the right solution here. Let me go back to making these state. So we have a state here. Whenever the state changes, this is going to re-render. So that part should be fine. The question is, does it understand that the state changes when I have these values changing? It should, because it's a struct and it should actually notice that. So why didn't it work? That's interesting. What if we now, I think we have a pause timer, right? Yeah, it's a pause timer. So now when we restart the app, when we just open the app, it should in the initial state, this here should be true. Maybe we can also debug that. Or was it that you could just run some code? I think do or run or something like that. Let me quickly check that as well. SwiftUI run print view. Something like.
All right, let's bring that beat back.
There was something like on appear that was just called on each change. I think I'm just going to go for on update, on appear, on drag, on submit, on change, on change of view store. Current focus timer are running. So whenever this value changes, just going to print. What is actually the path variable here? I have no idea. Let's try out. So did we get something? We got false. Yeah, this is just a value. So it is changing from true to false. So there is a true and false there. I'm also expecting the current progress to change. Running. Set to. Yeah. I think the same happening with current progress. So running is set to false, although it was, yeah, it was when I clicked the pause button. To false, and current progress set to 0.4, 0.6, so the values are changing. Somehow this is hidden. Okay, I don't really know why it gets hidden, but let's just comment that code out and see if the progress at least is working. Just comment out this opacity and accessibility code. Okay, we can see the state never changes. So something is wrong there with the state. We need to use like an environment, an object how's it called, object object or something like that. So that's weird. I have a look at that, but for now we're taking a quick break. I'll be back in 3 minutes. Okay, back to this state connection thing. So our current problem is that somehow this here does not update our view. So I have to read it up quickly. SwiftUI view doesn't update. Typically, I'm currently using composable architecture, and what I could do is just for this view, I could create a whole new reducer store view, and I use the passing that way. But for this small view, I don't want to do that, so I think there should be a simple solution. And sure that it's easy enough. Published. Maybe it's just published that I need to do. I thought published is for the observable object only. Yeah, so published. It's for the observable object, yeah. I just have this state. If I remember correctly, okay, state was if my source of truth was this field here, then I think state would be right. But I'm not changing the state right here, and then for some reason it doesn't work. I think that was how it was. So technically speaking, when I create this inside of here, this gets created, but when this value changes, I think the issue is actually that this view doesn't recognize the change of this value. I think that's the real issue here. So I need to somehow update this view and this value changes. So technically the timer reducer, where the timer is ticking, is setting some fields. It's not setting anything. So this is not changing the state, it's just calling tick, okay. And tick is calling tick here, and is saying update local state with focus timer. And this is setting the timer is running and time left. So these two fields are changing, but no other field is changing. And I guess that this is the issue. And focus timer does not have a published field, so maybe we could add published here, but then I think we're breaking things in core data, so maybe not a good idea to use published in there. How can we inform our view that the value has changed? So just force refreshing the view. That could be something we could do. Can we use add published in core data? No, I don't think that is a good idea. Maybe there is another solution. This is, I think, if you connect core data to your views directly, which I'm not doing. I don't think that this helps. That's not directly what I need.
I'll tell you the truth.
Yeah, no, that's not what I'm looking for. We could create some fields that we just change to force update the view. Something like a variable we call focus timer internal, or focus timer changed, just simple as that. And we could set it to false at the beginning, and whenever we are doing the tick call here, actually anything here, the play call, the pause, tick, complete, etc., we could say, okay, that field needs to be changed. Focus timer changed. .toggle. Something like that. I really don't like this. But, you know, get things working first and then you can still refactor. Update local state with focus timer. Yeah, it's getting called in all of these. Actually, we could just add this here, then we don't need it all the other places. Okay, so we have it here now. And what we are going to do now is in the timer view, just make sure that this gets based on that change. So I could say basically on change. Is this on change already enough to make it? But we just do like on change of new store. But actually it is recognizing these changes, right? As it's recognizing these changes, it should actually already call into them, but it's not. Good. So that's not the solution. So we have this here. And we want this to update whenever these fields are changing. They are state fields. They should be changed, but we're never changing it. We're always creating a new one. Yeah, that's the issue. We're always creating a new one. I think that's why it's not working. That's why we need a binding. So we might actually need a binding here. Just go for binding. Let's try again. A binding, and we're just calling. I think that works. And here we're just passing a constant. This should build now. And now back to the timer view. In here, we need to pass bindings now. And I will create a binding based on view store, which has the binding thing here. And we just need to do key path. I think we're just doing get and send. Thing is, we don't really need a binding. I don't think this is right because we're not sending anything to the view. The view is not sending anything back, to put it like that. Should be a one-way. Yeah, that's not right. How to do this correctly? Why doesn't it update? It should update. I think this, as it is, should update. We might not even need the state. Maybe that's the issue. Maybe we just need those variables and that's it. Let's see what happens without state. Yeah. So that was the issue. So when we wrapped it into a state, let's just do it again. So a state is a property wrapper which has a wrap value, and as per the documentation, property wrapper that can read and write a value managed by SwiftUI. SwiftUI manages the storage of property that you declare as state. When the value changes, SwiftUI updates the parts of the view hierarchy that depend on the value. Use state as a single source of truth for a given value, and this is the important sentence. Use it as a single source of truth for a given value stored in a view hierarchy. This is not our single source of truth in our case, and that's why state is definitely wrong here. we're just passing on data from another place where we have our single source of truth, and now it's working. So this is like just extracting it into a function, because now each time this is basically renewed. Yeah, that's okay, makes sense. So we did end up fixing this warning, so we can remove that. Nice. I thought this was going to be a small one. It was a small one, but not as small as I thought. Anyways, we have extracted custom progress view. Yeah, custom shape-based progress view plus extracted file. Commit that actually. We don't need this change anymore. This should work. Let's just double check. Go. We also wanted to actually render once when the view is shown. This would make this a little bit more correct, I would say. And problem is that, well, when we break this, why is this value, is this like returning 0 then? On change of view store, current focus timer, so current progress, I want to print current progress is just see what happens now. So the moment I clicked on pause, I want to know what exactly at that moment the value had been. So we are pressing the pause button and nothing, so that value doesn't change. We are hiding it, so we don't want to hide it when there is a started one. That's the point. The timer is running is one thing, and timer has started. I think that's actually what we want to do. So let's rename this. Just go in there and let's just rename this field here to timer has started. Actually, that's not even the case. I don't think we need to hide it at any time. We could show it from the start because we're not seeing anything anyways. Yeah, we can just remove that. We can just get rid of that. We can also remove the whole opacity and accessibility, this missing thing, so we don't show it. I think this is the only fail we really need. And that should be it. That should be the fix. Yeah, we need to remove this here as well. There you go. Now we have like the current state. And then it continues, it ends, it goes back to 0, and now we can start again. Fresh. Yeah, makes sense. That's fixed now too. Extracted and simplified, I would say. So we have extracted, simplify, and simplify. For the progress view that we had shown by the system, I think we needed to hide it because it was otherwise circling, not just by itself. Maybe it would not be circling, but it will look weird. And this is better. So extract custom progress view into conf. Okay. Next, what else do we have as warnings here? Make sure that relationships of the focus timer object are available. I think this is the case. We have already checked that. They are available. I was mixing this up with, I think, Ruby on Rails, where when you load a data from the database, like an object from the database, you do not have access to the relations right away. They're not getting loaded or something, and you can't access them. And this is not the case here. I think in core data it's always available. Provide a new actual stop button for canceling out early. Yeah, not high level, not important. Consider removing this to prevent unnecessary saves. This one here. Text entry. Is this save really needed? Yeah, let's keep it for now. Like a tiny detail, it really doesn't make much difference. Add support for multiple texts. Yeah, this is a larger one. Does macOS support dynamic type? Environment dynamic type size didn't work. Yeah, it looks like it doesn't support dynamic type. I don't know if this is really a to-do. It's like a question. Like more a comment. So macOS doesn't seem to support dynamic type. And then this code didn't work. I think that's just like a note that could be kept here, so it's clear why in this case, but we are still calling XXX arch, right? We're still calling it, even though it doesn't support it, we're still calling it, so yeah, there's nothing, maybe we can delete this. Yeah, okay, this is a warning. macOS doesn't seem to support dynamic type. Remove the dynamic type size from here. Question. Think about that later. Maybe we'll learn more about dynamic type on macOS. Okay. Replace categories and placeholder with user entered data. So we are passing right now the empty categories, and this is exactly the to do that we have written actually right now. So this is already covered, and we have provide actions. Ask for categories. This is the one we're working on, or planning to work on. When timer is up, animation isn't finished yet. Fixed timer string. That's to the one that we just created today. That's fine. I don't think also that this is a large issue if the timer is like at if this timer is 5 minutes long, it will be very close to being already finished, and then this is not a real issue. So I think this is not something we need to even tackle. Just remove it, and also I think this fits into one line. Showing reflection state at all times for debugging purposes. Oh, I see. So we want to be able to hide and show the reflection state. I see. So basically, let's make this more clear. Allow for hiding away reflection state to save space. Working. Alternatively, implement a mini mode. So mini mode is something like, I don't know if you are around long enough that you know that iTunes used to have a mini player. So the music app was called iTunes before, and iTunes had a mini player state, and I think also others like the Winamp and also Windows Media Player, I guess they had like a mini player. I'm thinking like a mini version of the app. So this would be like the full view, and then you could click some button here or there, or you could just close this and then it turns into like a mini hover or something like that. So that could be like also a way to tackle this. So in this state we always see the summary, and in the mini state there's like a button to get back to this state, something like that. Cool. Make the 1 second more readable unit not clear. Yeah, here, this is a small one. Yeah, we could fix that as well. This is not a huge deal. So just fixing some warnings. The timer, we're creating a timer, and then we're creating it every whatever unit that is. And that type is an scheduler type stride. Okay, scheduler time type, what is that? So this is a combined type. Scheduler is combined type, and this is just a stridable. It describes an instant in time for this scheduler. I'm sure this will be replaced. I mentioned it already. This is one of the reasons why I'm looking forward to that. If we go to Swift Evolution, let's just go to my blog here that I posted earlier. And so if you open that, you'll see that I'm mentioning this proposal here, and I'm trying to summarize. And in this proposal, you will have 3 new types. One of them is going to be duration, and duration is actually going to be having dot second. So if we go into that evolution proposal, and we scroll down to the duration type, so that's the clock type, the instant type. Thank you for following Belonix 97. Welcome to the stream. How are you doing? Are you a Swift developer yourself? Let me know. So the instant protocol we have here, and the duration protocol. And on the duration protocol, you can see you have some arithmetics here and also additive arithmetics. But more interestingly, the duration type itself will have seconds, milliseconds, microseconds, as a static function that returns a duration. So we will be able to create basically with dot seconds there. Belonix, I'm a newbie trying to improve myself as a QA tester. Oh, that's great. So I'm totally open to, like, I'm trying to produce beginner friendly content. So check out also my YouTube channel where I will be doing more stuff later in the summer, where I'm preparing a complete iOS course for total beginners, where I'm trying to teach like the minimum that you need to get as much as possible out as like an app developer. And as a QA tester, I don't have really good tips there specifically, other than you should also care about accessibility, like changing dynamic type. I do app reviews here, so if you check out my YouTube channel, you'll find some videos where I did app reviews. And when I do app reviews, I do also some QA testing, rather at the end, where I'm testing some of the accessibility features using VoiceOver, and also changing the dynamic type and things like that. So that's maybe something where you could learn something. But if you're like a developer otherwise, and that's the part where you're a beginner at, and maybe you're an experienced QA tester already, yeah, look forward to my channel. And otherwise, if you're interested in learning, you can always check out 100 Days of SwiftUI. Yeah, everything is a bonus for me. Thanks a lot. It's not working. So one thing I can definitely recommend if you're currently learning iOS development is 100 Days of SwiftUI by Paul Hudson. It's all free. It's 100, like you get, there's like a concept behind it. And I think it's really, really great. Don't mix it up though with 100 Days of Swift, which is based on UIKit. If you're going for that, you can do that as well. But 100 Days of SwiftUI is the one I recommend if you start right now. But what I was talking about is the duration type that will be coming to Swift soon. as this was also accepted a few weeks ago. So I think this is going to be part of Swift 5.7, which I guess will be released after WWDC. And I just want to write now my own extension like this to fix this warning that we just had here right after the break. So yeah, we're going to make the code more readable after the break, but I'll be back in 3 minutes. See you soon. Sorry for being late. I had to fix something with the overlays from Stream Elements, so I was quickly gone. Let's reword that to 24. Okay, so we're going to provide something like dot seconds, so it's more readable, to this type, which is scheduler dot scheduler time type. Although in our case this is just an associated type, we don't know yet which type this exactly is. And we can see this is also still not an it's just a protocol, so not an exact type. Maybe we could just pass a time interval here. Would that work? Time interval seconds 1. Timer interval, just time interval. Doubling that. Now convert value of type time interval, which is a double, to the expected type dispatch queue scheduler time type stride. So this is the exact type that we're going to have to extend. And let me go to this place here, so it's being called in here. And we might want to add this to our utilities so we can use it everywhere. So I'm just going to add the extension here. Call it scheduler type stride. Something like scheduler time extension. Don't have a better name for it right now. And then we're going to write an extension like this with a stride. And we can go inside of it, but I don't see the stride type or something like that. But I expect this to be some kind of integer or double, so let me try to actually just implement static func seconds, and I get something, and then I just return self. Let's see what init methods we have here. So we have an init method that takes a time interval, which is a dispatch time interval though. But this is interesting because that means that we do have seconds here, and maybe we could just use that. So maybe we just don't need this whole extension. Yeah, let me delete that again. Let's go back to the code here. It looks like we do have an init method that takes a time interval, and this can be seconds. There we go. We just made this more readable, and then the unit is also clear. This should compile. There we go. One more warning fixed. Well, hiding away reflection. I think we have fixed enough warnings, and we want to continue with basically the categories here. So let's just do that. This is gone. This has been renamed, and this is fixed. This was just refactored, and this is removed, no longer needed. And this is just renamed, so fix couple of small or fix or reword couple of small self-written warnings. Basically what we did here. Let's also summarize it in our document and push it. Here we go. And one learning was that, where do we use that now? Init dot time interval. just seconds. There, yeah, this was just in it. So the effect timer this one here. Effect timer methods. Every param can be passed unit by using init.seconds. That's basically the learning that we just had. But let's now get on with the category. So our goal is to be able to choose a category for each existing category group when starting or ending during a timer. So for that to work, we first need to create the category groups actually, and add also some categories that we want to have before we basically revert that hard-coded categories with this one, so we can choose a category. Or not choose, I mean add a category. Choosing is what we want to implement, but first thing is going to be that we need to hard code category groups and categories right now. So let's do that. I think the best place to start here is on the App Store to just add those data into the application. So I'm just going to go to the app entry point, which is like the place where we actually start the app. Just going to go to the view, and in the view, we're just going to say, okay, when this gets called on appear, we're calling the did appear action here, and then which goes into the reducer into this code here. So the reducer's did appear gets called, and in here we could just set up our data, whatever data we need. And we can already see that we're doing some data, some things here, like we are fetching the current focus timer basically, and if there is a current focus timer, if there's none, we are creating one. So this is already something similar that we're doing here. And then we're setting the current focus. So we are basically setting up the current focus timer state. And what we could do here additionally is to set up, in case there is no categories or category groups yet, we could set up that data. And this is typically called seeding. So we're seeding the database with some basic default data. And we could actually write some type where we just do this type of code. This is really related to the view, so this can make sense that it's here, but the seeding part, we want to get rid of that later, so I'm just going to create a new type for that. Just right here, I'm just going to call it, I don't know what to call it exactly, but something was seed. Initial data seed, seed data category. This is all about categories, so database seeder, maybe something like that. So we're gonna need some core data in here for sure. Let's just now create final class database seeder. And I'm just going to create a shared instance of that. This is a singleton that I'm creating here. Should we call it default? Like shared has a notion of that there is one share that everyone is going to use, and default has the notion of being, this is the default being used in the main app. Then you can also create alternatives. So the public so initializer is publicly accessible. In this case, not publicly, but internally. So I would need like an initializer here too. And then in the tests, I could call that initializer and create a different one that behaves differently. So I could just call this, but I'm going to just go for shared here. We can think about a test later. And then I'm just going to call, I'm going to give it a function seed. Simple as that. So Cool, so now we're going to just check the database and add the data that is needed, if needed. And we can already copy some code that we have on accessing the data from here. So we can see how a fetch request is created. And we will need that because we have to check if there's already some categories in the database to ensure. So we're only going to act here if the database doesn't have any categories and category groups. And I will, I think, just check that by doing a fetch request on the categories or category groups. Doesn't really matter. So let's call it a fetch request. And then I'm getting the, okay, we need to access to categories. So we already need to import the model because that's where we define all of it. Import model. Now we just say category, group or category, it doesn't really matter. I'll go for group. And then we just get the fetch request for that. We can then adjust by saying, okay, actually we don't need any sort descriptors or something like that. We just need this fetch request. And now we're also already going to call into it. And we need, in order for this to work, we need a managed object context. Just pass that. So this is definitely needed, otherwise we can't make anything. Manage object context, and then we just want to make a fetch, but maybe we just want to call count. Count for, because we don't really need the objects themselves, we just want to know if it's empty. Count for, and then we just get the fetch request, and we can just create it here. Count for fetch request here. And this is basically all we need to know. But this is supposed to be categories count. Let's see if that builds. Let's actually just switch to the app entry point. And yeah, we're already getting that we're calling into something that can throw, so we need to try. And we can also make this throwing. So this tries, get the count, and I think we can just say if this here, oh, okay, that's actually stored. If categories count is less than or equals 0. We could also go for equals 0. I don't think it will be a minus value, but that will be also a weird error. If it's 0, we will create them. And we could do the same for categories as well. For the categories, yeah, this is category group count. Category groups count. And actually, I think we can just compare directly here and just call this seeding initial seed. Okay, we're basically checking if we have seeded before. And if this is 0, then we have not seeded before. So this is like the first app start, basically. Categories are empty. So basically this is what we're looking for. Now we can say if categories are empty, then we create them. So here goes our seeding code. So what do we want to create? We want to create a build first to see if that works. Yeah. So we want to create a, we said in my goal, I want to have a project and a task type kind of group. So let's create the project group. Let's just create a category group. Oops, category group. And we need to create it with the context, which is our managed object context. We could just call it context. Make it shorter, I think. Clear from the context what kind of context this is. And actually, I think I have an initializer for that, my own initializer, right? Yeah, context with name. Let's use that instead. And we're just calling it project. We might want to localize this. But this is a temporary solution, so I'm not going to localize it. A long-term solution I would localize. This one can't stay just project. And that's it basically. That's the project group, and let's also create a task type group, category group in it, and we don't really need to write init here, context, and let's call this one task type, just like this. In the end, we want to for sure context safe, which is also throwing. Next, we want to create our categories. So create category groups. Create categories. We want to create them, and we want to also assign to them the right groups. So let's just say I'm starting with our focus timer. Open focus timer project. This is a category. So we do have in category initializers that takes name, color, icon, and group all at once. This is our own initializer. Just pass it to context, and the group is already clear. This is going to be a project group. Everything else I want to define, so let's define them properly here. Okay, so the name is going to be open focus timer. The color, do we have a color for the open focus timer? Maybe some kind of green. Let's just go for green. Light green or something, or just green. And we have an icon as a symbol icon, so we could use any icon. And let's look up some nice as a symbol icon that fits. So let's go for time. Block. Go for sand. What's that word in English? Oops. Hourglass. Yeah, that's what we're looking for. And the fill state here is partly filled. This one, the default hourglass, basically. So we just go for hourglass here. And that should be it basically, and we'll create the same, we'll create another, this is open focus timer project category. No, that's actually a project. So next project we have is body crouch project. These two projects we have already worked on, so it makes sense to create them. I wish there was a shortcut to, like, whenever this is in one line, to split it into multiple lines. And that's actually something that I might be wanting to create. So let me actually write it down as an idea. So learning ideas. Create an Xcode extension that can split call in one line to multiple. Let's just copy that again. Category. Well, this one here turned into, let's remove the init here. Oops, here. And then this gets turned into, I have this so often, it would be nice to have some Xcode extension for that. Turn into that. That might be a future project that we might be working on here. Who would be interested in an Xcode extension that can do that? But anyhow, let's continue here. So this is our context, then the name is body crouch. Color, what's the color of body crouch? It's, what's that, salmon orange? Let's go for orange. As of symbol, like, I think we have this, I think this is an emoji actually, but maybe there's something like talk, person, something like that maybe. Copy the name. Yeah, why not? Let's stick with that. Her name was Person Wave 2. Person Wave. Oh, there's no Person Wave available in SF symbols. This came in version 3. This should actually be in there. Why is it missing? Person Wave 2. SF safe symbols. There's Person Wave 2 symbol name. And it does exist. Symbol raw value, Person Wave 2. And Wave 2. It actually work. SF symbol dot Person Wave 2. What's going on here? So, last index November 26, showing the top 4 matches. When was this file last edited? Just go back to it. So here it is. Let's go to Blame. So here it is, adding new symbols 4 months ago in this commit. From November 13. And the latest release here is from March 10 last year, so we might have to point to the main branch, or the stable branch, how it's called here. So that's something, let's fix that. Go to our package now. And the SF safe symbol, let's just branch stable here. Wait till it checks out. Should actually compile. And the group is again project group. So let's actively update latest to the latest versions. Okay, I think now we have these categories created. I think this is actually create projects. Next, let's create task types. So one task type is design, task, and that's also a category. Let's just copy from up here. It's going to be faster. like this. Let's just rename it to design. And for me, design is all sorts of gray. And as an S symbol, maybe something like a sparkle. Sparkles. Let's use sparkles. Oops. Sparkles. And it's of course the task type group. Next, what kind of work do we have? Coding. Coding task. Oop. Okay. Quick break. I'll be back in 3 minutes. See you soon. Okay, back. So we were creating our categories, and this was the coding task we want to create it next. Coding task is obviously coding, and the color for me for coding is either it's the Xcode blue. Yeah, let's just go for that blue. Let's go for blue. The icon. What is the icon? Probably that thing here. What's it called? Hammer. And it's task type. What other task types do we have? Oh, we're doing app reviews, of course. So app review task, which is and the category. Let's just copy this, and we'll also add code review. We haven't done that till now, but a good reminder here. So if you are a beginner or you are an indie developer and have some part of your code that you want me to review, ping me on Twitter, because I am also, besides the app reviews that I have already done in the past, also for indie developers that you can check and find on my YouTube channel, but by just searching for Flying Dev. But I am also planning to do code reviews where I can either focus on refactoring, so I'll be basically checking your code and seeing what parts I can improve, or I can focus more on rating, so I can basically try to give some categories in which I rate some parts of your code, and by that you either know where you're standing, or you just get improvements, and I can even post a pull request to your project. And to get all the details, let me send to the chat here. Reviews. For all the details, I have a document set up. Obviously, all the changes I make are going to be staying with you, and just share the part with me that you're fine with showing off publicly. But especially for beginners, I think that's going to be really useful, because I'm going to just refactor and change some of your code. And by doing that, you might learn some things along the way, and learn it in your own code, right? That's like something interesting that could happen there. So definitely ping me if you want me to do that. So coding task, we have app review here. App review task. And we have code review here. Actually, I'm just thinking about if that is a task type or if it is a project. I think the project would be the app, right? The specific app that I did the review for, or something like that. Although it's always a one-off thing. Yeah, I'm not sure. Anyhow, I think the task type is probably review, and the project is the type of review. Maybe that's more correct. By the way, we're not going to use these variables. Monsieur B, that's a really good idea. I'm going to abuse of this offer. Make sure to do that. So, Jeremy, make sure to send me off some of your code. I mean, I would be interested in doing the code review because it's also some learning experience for me. I think it's just going to be fun also. And I can restrict it. Like if you send me not too much code, it can be just half an hour. If it's a huge project, it can take longer. Yeah, I don't know if you have an experience working full-time at some companies, but as a freelancer, do you mostly use SwiftUI without caring about UIKit? Companies often expect to know both. Mr. Zurich also said hello before, so hello, welcome to the stream. I have worked for companies before I became indie developer. Just this year I became indie developer, so I did that start of January basically. Before that I worked for two different companies for a long time, so I know exactly these limitations with using the latest of technologies. I know that typically the rule is to support every iOS version up to like 2 years ago. Because then you basically get 90% of users. The good news though, and that's how I could convince in my last company, the good news is, I can show you that iOS 15, like devices that support iOS 15, basically the devices supported by iOS 15 is, I don't know if they stated here specifically, let me just summarize. It's basically the same that are supported back to, I think, iOS 13. So I think iOS 12 was the last version where actually devices were dropped. But from iOS 13 on, 14, 15, not a single device was dropped. Or was it iOS 12 also? iOS 12 dropped devices. Before it, unlike iOS 7 before it, which did drop for some way, iOS supports the same. So it's iOS 11 even. So if you have to support iOS 11, the good news is you can just bring out a version of your app where you just show the user, hey, you're on iOS 11, please upgrade to iOS, to latest iOS, and then you could just say, okay, I'm going to just support iOS 15 from there on. And that's what we did in my previous company. We just brought out an update where we informed the users to just upgrade, because every single device that has this specific version can upgrade. And that was a way how we could no relax and subscribed. Thank you very much. So much appreciated. Thank you for your subscription. That's really great. How are you doing? So that's the way how I could convince in my previous company that we support iOS 15 even on, and by just also showing that to the users. You could also go just 14 or something like that, so not too many users see that kind of modal asking to upgrade your device. But that's really the good news, that every single device can be upgraded from iOS 11 on, I think it was, and that's really cool. Or was it iOS 13? I'm really not sure. iOS 13 dropped devices. I have the feeling it was 13. Why is it always the German one? Okay, so iOS 13. It was iOS 13. Sorry for that. So if your company is going to support back to 2 years ago, iOS 13 is what you can support. The other story, of course, is to get back to your question, Mr. Soyak. The other part of the story is you will have already a lot of code written in UIKit. And one aspect of that is if you're hiring new people, you expect them to also know UIKit because you have so much UIKit code around. And the other part of the story is you don't want to rewrite everything, right? So if everything in your app is based on UIKit, I personally wouldn't rewrite. I also have like an open source app, which you can find also here. It's about something specific. It's also really a small app, but this app is fully written in UIKit, and I'm not considering rewriting it in SwiftUI just yet. So if at all, I'm going to be only rewriting it if I plan to like make bigger, larger UI changes anyway, which I am planning at some point, but without the need to really change big things, I wouldn't rewrite anything that's written in UIKit. So I would stay with UIKit where you already have it. But I think there's nothing that speaks against writing new views in SwiftUI, and that's how I tackle it. And of course, there's a learning curve also. There's also like the navigation and the state management is different. But in my opinion, it's better long term. Also specifically because it makes things more declarative code makes things easier to bring on new platforms. I think SwiftUI, one large part of SwiftUI's story is that when we have the Apple glasses that are being rumored, SwiftUI is going to be really helpful to write code for that as well, without really thinking about how different the UI in like such an environment is going to look. It's going to look totally different, or behave, and the interaction, but we don't have to care if you just use SwiftUI, and that's really amazing about that. And I'm pretty sure that it will be SwiftUI only, like the widgets also are on iOS. So I think it's clearly the future, and if you want to switch earlier than possible, then I think it's going to be useful to you. Selamlar, iyi yayınlar. Thank you very much. Oh, no Laxon, yeah, sure. How was your stream? Did you stream today? Teşekkür ederim. So we were at creating these fields here, and I don't think we need to store them all, so we might actually just get rid of these variable names. Just want to create them, and maybe we can assign them so we don't lose the objects themselves before we save them into the database. So we stick them around in the memory, like here too. Same here. So we are just creating our hard-coded categories that we can choose later. So we are creating the projects, open focus timer, body crouch, and I'm just going to add body crouch, open focus timer. Then we have app review and code review. App review, let's just make that yellow. Code review, let's just make that red. And an app, is there a symbol for app? Or there's even something similar, yeah. So what looks closest to an, oh damn, these are cool. Apps iPhone. Yeah, this is nice. Apps iPhone, that's what I'm going to use. Apps iPhone. And it's in the project group. Then we have code review. What's the closest thing to code? Barcode, no. But this one could be, yeah, that's fine. Chevron left / chevron right. Chevron left / chevron right. Cool. Then yok bugün daha açmadım yayın, belki açarım bir saatte. So you're not streaming yet, you're planning to stream in 1 hour. If you're streaming while I'm live, I might be rating you, so that's that. Although you're streaming in Turkish, right? I'm always thinking about that, like if that's a good idea to rate someone who's not streaming in English, but you do understand English, so people could ask you questions in English. And your code also is in English, I guess. So if you're going to be coding, I might be rating. Create task types, design coding, and I'm just going to call it review. Designing, coding, should I call it designing? It's just design. Maybe it's just programming here. And this is review. Mr. Soyak, so UIKit is only important for maintaining apps already written with the framework. But if I create a brand new app, I can safely start with SwiftUI. One thing I want to say for sure is SwiftUI doesn't support everything you can imagine in an app. SwiftUI is still kind of limited. So I don't know what your background is. If you're like a starter who doesn't have a lot of UIKit experience, you will have to learn UIKit once you come come close to that border. I'll just show you one simple example, a very, very simple example. We did write a color extension, and I basically wanted to be able to get the hex string from a color. This is the type in SwiftUI, and as you can see here, I am importing UIKit here, and the reason for it is there is no API to get the RGBA values of a color type in SwiftUI. So things like this, you will come across a lot of limits to the SwiftUI, because SwiftUI is really, really new still. It came out, I think, in 2000. I think we had SwiftUI 3 last year, so it came out in 2018, I think. And 3 years for a UI framework is like nothing. It's still like a baby. While I am suggesting and recommending to use it already, because the types that you have in SwiftUI, they are already quite stable. They are already like you can trust them to work. If they look the way you want, you need them to look already, then everything is fine. But if you're looking for either something very specific and custom, you might need to go back to UIKit, and then the good news is you can always include UIKit views in SwiftUI, so that's no problem at all, and that's also why I recommend using SwiftUI. Otherwise I would not recommend it, but you can use SwiftUI views in UIKit views in SwiftUI without any problems, so that is the good news. And that's like for custom views. And there are just views that are not there yet. So SwiftUI just last year, if you just look up the history, last year new views were added that didn't exist before. The first year there was not even like a map, then things like that. And I think also camera view and things like that. There's a lot of things still missing. So I recommend start your new apps with SwiftUI, because you will learn the new thinking. That's like the main reason. You will learn a new thinking of how apps are developed in the future. And it's really a different approach. It's like UIKit, you're like an emperor. You're saying like, okay, I'm the king here, and I want you, you group, please go there, and you go there. It's like you're telling the views how they should, like where they should go on the screen. That's like how UIKit works. On SwiftUI is different. You're basically explaining them what you expect as the outcome. It's like, I'm the king, I'm telling my troops, I expect you to, I don't know, to structure yourself in a way that I can easily put you in groups or something like that. And then they have to figure out how that works. That's like the difference. And it's a different kind of thinking. And the job that we as developers have to do with SwiftUI is also different. We have to think a lot about the state, about how state changes, and then also how we have to tell like how view derives from that state. That's like the job is changing. So that's why SwiftUI is so different, and also why so many people are struggling, especially with like navigation and things like that, because we never had state-driven navigation. We always just told the navigation to, okay, now navigate to the next screen. You were just telling it what to do, and now you just say, okay, if this field of the data is turning true, then this navigation should be shown, or this screen should be shown. But you're never telling it, okay, now go to the next screen. You're just describing when the next screen should be shown. And that's a different kind of thinking, and that's why many are struggling. I struggled myself at the beginning as well. Okay, long talk there. I hope that was not too distracting for other watchers. But let's go back to this. And we have the review type. I want to give it a color. Let's call review yellow or green. And no, not a hammer. What's like a review? Review is like checking something. Yeah, check mark. Check mark makes sense. Or some sign. Something like check mark seal. Sounds good to me. Check mark seal. So now we have the task types created as hard-coded, because we want to first work on the choosing part, and then later we can add the creation part. And we have the 4 projects here. The categories, these are the projects. This belongs to the project group. This belongs to the task type group. Cool. So I have a dependency here, the review and app review and code review. They're kind of, I'm not really happy about how this turned out. I think these here are actually tasks. So let's add them to task type instead. Code review, app review. Yeah, I think the projects are basically the single projects that we have there. And I might just create a project. I don't know. Let's revert that. It doesn't matter. We will ditch this all at long term anyway, so I'll just keep it as is right now. And this is better than nothing. So let's get started with these here. Let's see if this builds. So just to remind, because we were distracted a little bit, so we have this new database seeder, and it has a seed function, and I'm checking if there is any category group already in the database, and if not, we're creating 2 category groups and a whole set of projects and types as categories, so we can choose them later. And of course we have to call into this at some point here. I'm just going to go to the app entry point view, where we have the did appear, which calls into the reducer. displays here, and here I'm just going to create them if they don't exist. So I could just say like database seeder shared seed, right? And I could pass it the environment, which we have here from the environment, but then we have a problem when we try to test this. Also, we have to try this. We could do like optional try. So, or actually this is, let's make it a forced try because we want to know if something goes wrong with the seed data right away. This is not going to stay long term anyway, so no need to handle the error here. But the problem here is now we are accessing a global state inside of our reducer, and this makes reducer not testable. And that's definitely something we need to fix. And I'm going to just fix it by saying, okay, this database seeder, I'm going to pass into the app entry point reducer through the environment. So let's go to our reducer here, and we have defined on the reducer that it is using an app environment, which is a type that we defined in our utility. But now we want to have our own environment for the reducer. So I'm just going to call just a struct like this. But it's not an app environment, it's a app entry point environment. And I want to have access to an app environment here. So like I am here, I'm going to say, let this type, and this is going to be appenv, which is of type app environment. And additionally, we're going to want to have a database seeder. Database seeder. So currently our database seeder only has a shared object, but when we start testing, we could actually create another init method here and give it some different behavior when testing. So that's something we could do there, or we can also just call the shared one in the test as well, but that's something we control in the test then. Therefore, I'm adding this database seeder here, and we're going to use the environment here to get the database seeder. So we have now a database. Oops, I have to change the environment type here, of course. Now we have access to a database seeder from within the environment. And now when I build, it should actually fail because the types are not matching anymore. For example, here we're saying when we are creating this app entry point reducer, we are also connecting it to the timer reducer because we show the timer screen from the entry point, and we're passing our environment object from this reducer into the timer reducer. But now the types don't match anymore because we have a app entry point env, and this timer reducer expects an app env. But we have a simple solution because we have an app env in our app entry point env, so we can just call app env here. This one is fixed, but let's continue. So it's saying env doesn't have manage object context anymore. It makes sense because we have to call into app env, and we have to do it for all these here. We have, okay, this is looking good now. Now other places are failing. And mainly the issue is that when we create our environment in the preview, we're basically just passing the mocked here, and the mocked is defined on appenv like this, and we now need a mocked for our new app entry point env as well, which is this one here. I could just do this here, say okay mocked, and this returns the same type, and then I just initialize. Then the question is what database seeder do we want to pass our previews? And I could just say here, appenv going to stay mocked, and the database seeder what do we pass here? We could pass just shared, but then the problem with shared could be that in shared we're actually we're actually passing the NS object in the function. So actually, we don't have any problems here with having this code in our app entry point, in our tests or in our previews, because when calling the seed function, which we're calling here, we are going to pass the environment of the appenv, And this one can be like an in-memory environment, so this shouldn't be a problem. So we can actually do it like this. So this should work. And now we have this code here as well. So when we now go back to the place where it was failing, this should compile now. This is cool, and it is all building, which is great, but unexpected, to be honest, because I expected where I create the environment, that part to fail, but I'm creating it elsewhere. So if I compile the app, that should fail, because in the app, I am creating an app entry point environment here, and this is a append though. Instead, we need to create the new type, which we have to have access to, so I have to make it public. Oh, it is public, but the initializer isn't public. So if I go back to append, see the initializer had to be public here as well. Let's create a member-wise initializer, and we'll continue on that in 3 minutes. Yeah, be right back. See you there. Okay, I'm back. Let's continue. So we were at the environment, and I just created this member-wise initializer. So if you don't know how that works, it's really cool. You can just command click and then generate member-wise initializer that creates this for you, and then you could just change the internal type to public in this case. So I can create it from another module, and that's it. Hello, wow, you are streaming a long time. Yeah, I'm streaming, today I'm streaming twice basically, and I have been streaming twice a week. One in the evening, and one in the evening on Wednesday, and one on the afternoon on Friday. And now I have moved the evening stream from Wednesday to Friday, because then I have only one day where I'm streaming and the overhead becomes less. Thank you for following Triangle Polo. Thank you very much. How are you doing? Okay, public init, we have the initializer set up here, and let's already split this into multiple lines. The Swift format expects that from us. Triangle Polo says, hello, I'm good, thanks, how are you? Yeah, I'm great. I'm streaming, and we just have 20 minutes, so this is the last timer session that we're doing. So yeah, looking forward to the weekend, and actually after the stream, so for everyone who hasn't heard it before, after the stream I am basically for 1 week on going to be on vacation as an indie developer. It's of course easy to do that, but with my wife we decided next week we're on vacation, and I'm not going to be streaming next week. That means I'll be back in 2 weeks, and yeah, other than that I'm looking forward to that. So public initializer, now we can go back. We should be able to call it here now. There we go. Now we have the app environment object we can pass, and the database seeder. We're just going to use shared here. We can already see we will need access to that database and seeder publicly as well. So let's make that public. Let's make this public. But the seed method, I don't think it needs to be public. Just need to create it from the environment. From the open focus timer app right here. So for this one, we can use previous app env that we had created, and this one is going to be just the shared one. This should compile now. Fair enough, breaks are important. Yeah, for sure, breaks are of course important. And not much we can do actually next week. I'm still in Germany where I live. While everything is opening up, still the numbers are very, very high. We have record numbers for COVID cases, so we're not going to do much. Also, we have in the family, basically the family needs us in that time, so we can move anyways to somewhere else. And so overall, we're going to stay, but it's always great to have time off. I will finally have time to play, to finish the Pokemon game that I have started, and to have a second round on Cyberpunk 2077. So I'll be playing PlayStation games and Nintendo Switch games. I'm looking forward to that. So I think this was building. Let's switch back to our entry point here. So now in the reducer, our goal, let's go back to that, was to call the database seeder seed method, and we're doing that. Now I'm expecting when we open the app the first time that these seed data that we have defined here should be now added to the database. And to see that, we have the app already running. Let's open the SQLite file here, which is stored in here. Let me copy that. Let's just open that path. So this opens our SQLite file. What Pokemon game? I heard Pokemon. Yeah. So you're a fan of Pokemon too. I saw that you have a pic where you are like holding the Pokeball in front of it. I'm talking about Pokemon Arceus, so Legends Arceus. That's the Pokemon game I'm currently playing. I couldn't play it to the end yet. So I will be playing that next week, I guess. So this is our data. Is it good? You haven't played that? Like, let me go to Metacritic. So I like to see like the ratings of games on Metacritic. Oh no, what's that? Arceus, Pokemon Legends Arceus. So the average is 83 and the user score is 8.3. It's quite a good game. For a Pokemon game, it's really cool. But I'm willing, but I'm afraid, because I normally get stuck in games like that. It's your choice, you have to decide for yourself, but yeah, and then boom, time is gone. Yeah, true. I think that you have that risk in Arceus, but it's not as bad as in some other games. There are games, for example, I loved Legends of Zelda Breath of the Wild. I played it, I'm sure, for 300 hours or something like that. So a lot of time lost there, but it didn't feel lost. Like the time just passed and I was just having fun. So in that case, it's really cool. In this case, I have to say it feels a little bit like work. So that's why I didn't play it through yet, I guess. Or maybe because I just didn't have the time. I'll see next week when I play through without any problems, then I'll know that it's really good. Yeah, Breath of the Wild is my favorite game. It's just the best game of all time. Well, let's get back to the categories. So we can see no categories data here yet, and also no category group data here yet. We do have some focus timers that we have created, and rich text entries like the text on the focus timers. But basically, I expect now when I restart the app that there are, I think, 6 or 10 or something categories, the ones that we added here. And let's just see if that works. So I'm going to rebuild this and start the app. Let's see if anything crashed. So nothing crashed, that's a good sign. Now let's refresh this, and here we go. We have now our design review, code review, open focus timer, app review, body crouch and programming categories created. And those categories should also be connected to groups, and these groups are task type and project. So you probably can't read this well. I don't know how to make this bigger. I hope you can read it. So this reads task type and this project. And these are the two groups that we have created. And you can see that the categories are linked to different IDs of groups. So here, so 1 here and 2 here. And this is exactly what we were expecting. Also, the symbol names are stored, the color hex codes are stored. So I think the data part works as expected. Now I'm going to test by restarting the app and rerunning it again if it recreates them and just duplicates the data. So let me refresh. It does not. So also our code to check that we don't do that twice works. So I would say that our solution for creating, so let's go back to the goal. So our goal was to be able to choose a category for each existing category group when starting, ending, during a timer. So this part we have not implemented yet, but at least we have now the category groups hard-coded to select. And then next time we're going to work, or maybe we can start that right now, is we can try to show these and implement a selector, like a picker or something like that, so we can actually choose these. And that's basically what we have started going to. So let's see what the changes are. So we have this new environment object that's looking nice. This is fine. This is all what we expected. We have the new database seeder. And probably in the database seeder we should add a warning, because we don't want this type basically in the final product. Used only for for skipping the creation of categories, groups during development. Okay, now that we have that in place, let's go back to commits. And this is looking good. And last but not least, we have also changed and updated as of save symbols. For some reason, there is no new release anymore with the latest changes. And that's basically add hard-coded categories and groups to choose from for our own needs. So the categories and groups I've added are just for me, and they only make sense for me right now. Of course, I will make them configurable, but yeah, to get started, I think that's a good starting point. So that's something that we have done, and we can document that as something we have completed today. Let's continue on this part. Choose a category for each existing category group. Yeah, let's try to implement the quick a picker. So we currently have this view. This is What about now? Does it work now? I think you should hear me now again. No idea what happened, but it's like I was also not seeing it myself, but I can see it now. How long was I gone? So how much should I repeat? I'll just repeat basically that we have started this and we want to continue on this, and for that basically what we want to be able to do is we want to just a couple of seconds. Great. So we want to be able to, so thank you also for pointing that out, both Novas and Monsieur B. So Jeremy and yeah, I don't know your name yet, but we'll learn that. So we're going to provide a way to choose and select the category for both the project and also the task type when we start working on something. And we probably also want, when we start a new timer, that the last project and the last task type that we have selected to be automatically applied. Alternatively, we could also add a UI where when the task timer is up, basically, that it asks us like what type did you work on, what task type did you work on, and what project did you work on, because I think that's something that I would use this way. But I think it's great to have multiple ways of editing that data, and then we could like make it configurable. But for now, I just want to show it here so we can at least select it, and I would just want to default it to the last selected one. So I'm just going to create it here, but the question is, where do we add it? Do we add it on the side of this? On the side of this? Just as a third thing here? I think the task type is really belonging here somewhere, and maybe we just make a very simple picker. So let's see what that could look like. Let's just go to, I guess, the timer feature and open the timer view. So this is our timer feature, where it looks like right now. And this is the preview that we are using. Both in light mode and dark mode, and also on the iPhones. So the preview is working now. And I just want to create a picker. And for the picker, we have to, of course, read the data that we have in the database. So we need to know how many category groups we have to know how many pickers we need to show, and then for each of them we need to show them. But I'm just going to implement it with some local data first. Or actually, let's read the data from the database. So where can we read the data from the database? I'm thinking of in the timer view, we have the timer store. And in the timer store, we could just add, we could just read the data here on initialization, right? Yeah, just for now, let's just do it like that. So we will have in the end a var of category groups, which is an array of category group. And for each category group, we will have an array of categories. And we could just do that with a dictionary. So we could go for categories by group, category group, and category, a list of categories. That's the data that we want here. Because I'm putting it into the state, I think I need to make these equatable. I'm not sure if they are equatable yet. So let me try to build this, and I'm expecting this to fail. Category is ambiguous. We're importing model here. Let's make sure this is model.category. Okay, it expects us to provide all the stored properties here. We could just go for category groups. We could just go for some core data code here. But the problem is we don't have access to a managed object context here. So that's not something we can do in the init method itself. We need to provide these data somewhere in the reducer. So I'll just default them to empty collections. We have now empty collections, and let's for now, let's just go to the reducer, and on the reducer we have a did appear, and this is when this view is first shown. So we could just go and say state dot and then just provide these new values that we've added, category groups, and then we fetch the data from the database. That's something we need to do. So let's just write a warning, read category, read groups from database. And we also want to read the, I think both of them we need to read from the database, right? And this is the code that we want to be working on. Once we have that, we can work on the view. So I'll be starting with this. Let's create a fetch request for the groups. Like a group. Fetch request. And I can just go into category group here, which has the fetch request method on it, which provides an NSFetch request. And because I want to fetch all of them, I don't need to provide anything else here. I can just say environment.manageObjectContext fetch, and then I just fetch the full list of all these objects. And the fetch request, I actually don't even need to provide a variable for that. I can just fetch it directly like this. And the result is going to be a list of category groups. Managed objects. So if I try to compile, this should work, then I have to call try here. And I think we have done already in some other places. Actually, no, we haven't. So have we not fetched anywhere else? We did fetch in other places data already. Yeah, we have fetched the running focus timer. And in here you can see we did provide a do catch, so we can handle errors properly. And I basically created a to-do here, and I think that's something that makes sense for now as well. We do want to have the data here, and we don't want to handle the errors yet. I'm just going to copy that, and all the code in here goes there. We are already reading from the database, so we can get rid of this. When app is ready for analytics, crash reporting, yeah, that makes sense. Handle error later. Handle error. I think it's more proper to say error occurred while reading category groups. And then we just state what the error localized description is. That will help more the developer than what we had before. And we can also use that in the other place. In here, let's give the same fatal error. But yeah, in this do closure, we can now do things that that can throw errors. And these managed object contexts are actually of type NS managed object. So we have an array of NS managed objects. But because I know that I'm calling into category group here, I can actually say I want this to be an array of category groups, which is a subtype of NS managed object context. So I can just say this here. See if that compiles. It does compile. Cool. So this I can actually directly save into this here because this is exactly an array of category groups. There we go. And next I want to get all category groups for all categories for all category groups. So I have to walk through the category groups. I could do a for loop, like for group in state.category groups. I could actually create an empty one here. Then for each group I could say state.categories by group. For the group is, and then we have to call read the data from a database again. So I'm just going to copy the code from above. Manage object context fetch, and this time I'm fetching not category groups but categories fetch request. Now there's a problem with this code because now this fetch request is fetching all categories, but we don't want to have all categories. Instead we just want to have the categories of this group. And the cool thing is in the category group we already have an NS set of categories. So I think we can just say, instead of doing this, group dot categories. Now unfortunately this is a set, so it's not ordered. Although is it ordered? Let me check. So if we go here into category group, click into categories. This is not ordered. Okay, this is not an ordered list of categories. I think it makes sense to order it in a way that when we show the categories that they're ordered, for example, alphabetically. So because it's a set, we can just call sorted on it. And unfortunately this is a set optional, so this might actually not be there. And I think I created an extension on the category group. But I don't have something like that here. Okay, for focus timer I have created an extension, but I have made something like this. So I created a computer property. I called it, so for progress points, for example, this is what is created by core data. I created a typed progress point computer property, which gives me an actual array. So this is a true array and not an optional array. And this just has this code is basically calling the progress points, trying to get the array from the set that we have there otherwise. And it's basically saying either this is if this is nil, provide an empty array, or if there is some data in it, then return that data. And also I provided a setter that basically turns back the array, if I pass it in here, back into a set. So we could write something like this for the category group extension as well. I think I already have it, category group extension. There you go. Let's just write this and let's just call it typed categories. But I'm going to keep it a set because it doesn't have an order. It's just an honest set and not a optional set. The set of categories. And I'm just calling it categories here, which is an optional set. I'm just going to set if this is nil and then just provide an empty set. And set conforms to expressible by array literal. So I can just provide this here. Then we have the categories here. And I think in this case it's easy. I can just say the new value is assigned here because it's just the same type but optional. This should work. Now we should be able to call into typed categories and we should have an honest set and it could be empty. But on this set we also want to sort this these entries. And I could just say sorted by Let's just call into that. So I will get two categories that I have to sort. And let me get rid of these here. So this is the left category, left hand side, let's call it, and right hand side. And I just want to sort it by the name of the category. So I'll just say left hand side dot, and I should have access to the name. It's an optional string. That also shouldn't be the case. Focus timer, I think we also, is not optional. Actually, it should not be optional. I just go for some wrapping here. So the name of this should be smaller than the name of the other object. The thing is, this will not sort case insensitively. This will sort case sensitively. And I learned a small tip. I had a small tip shared recently on Twitter, which is exactly the same thing that we have here now, which is how we can sort insensitively without having to write like a lowercase code in this basically. So what we have available is, besides the sorted function, we have an overload sorted using, we can pass a string.comparator. So this is the learning for me, that there are comparator types. And our timer is over, but we're going to ignore that because this is the end of the stream anyways. So we have the string.comparator type, and this accepts options. And one of the options it accepts is case insensitive. So I'm going to use exactly that. I'm just going to say okay. Actually, this is not very useful in our case. Yeah, true. Okay, this is a learning. It's shared now here on my Twitter that you can use if you have a situation where you have an array of strings. We don't have that here. We have an array of categories. So we have to do this other method now. So I just have to call lowercase anyways. And it's always best to call lowercase with a localized version. So lowercase with locale, and I can just pass current. Because there's different lowercasing rules in different languages. And this app may be localized to other languages later. And this ensures that it works with other languages as well. So categories by group, I think they are sorted now. And I am assigning them here in this dictionary. And I think that this is about it. Let's see what fails. Okay, it's telling us that NSSet is not convertible to set. Oh, I see. So I have to convert that into a set of category optional. Convertible. I think it's like this. And in here, assign value of set to NSSet. So we have to wrap it in an NSSet. I think it should accept the set. Oop, does not. No, we have to pass set explicitly. Cool. And actually, I think I want to create for the name here. No, let's just keep it like that. So this should be sorting that, and I just want to make sure that this works with a very small UI here. It's not going to be proper UI. Let me also get rid of the timer. So let's write some UI so we can see what data we read from there. And we will not make it beautiful, but we want to see something. So let me show the preview again. This is what it looks like right now. And we want to add, just below that, let's just add a picker quickly. Is this button, there we go. For the divider, let's just add a picker. And the picker accepts these overloads, so I can provide a string, a selection, a content, a label. The selection will not work for now. The string we're just going to call, actually I have to, or I can create a picker. We have to create a picker for each group, right? So we have to go over the groups. I'll just create a list. And in the list, we're going to go into for each, and then we can say view store, dot, and then access our category groups. So that's category group. Let's just call it group. And for each category group, I want to create a picker. That's basically what the code that I want to create here. And the picker's name is going to be that group's name. Selection, well, the binding, I'll just go, well, we don't have a selection binding going on yet. Yeah, I don't know, how can I skip that quickly? Can I say something like constant init? Let's try, and then the content, and the content for now could just be a text. And the text is, in this case, we should have the, we should be able to, wait a sec, something is wrong here. Picker, where can I provide the, okay. I think this was right, but I have to provide another for each in here, I think. The for each, in this case, we access the, oh wait, maybe we don't need to do the, where is that code that we just wrote? I was in reducer. I think we don't need to do this code in here. I think we can do it right in there, inside the view, because we don't really need the categories by group. I guess this is more, this is better because then we have all the logic here. Yeah, I prefer that. So then we can here say uStore.categories by group, and then just access the array for the current group. In here, we should have the category, and we should be able to say like text category name. I doubt that this will work right away, but something like this should work. Let's see about the errors. Let me turn that off. So for each requires categories to conform to identifiable. That's easy to fix. So we can go to category group extension and say like extension category group identifiable, and let's go into, how can we identify that? We do have this model. Do we have an ID or something? We don't. Do we want to have an ID? I think the name should be unique. Well, we haven't solved this yet, but I will just write a warning here. Make sure to use a proper identifier, e.g. the name could be made unique. But for now, we're just going to return as the identifier the string of the name. First one should be fixed now. Because it doesn't match public. Now, hashable cannot be constructed because it has no accessible initializers. Yeah. I don't know what the type we need here. The selection is... I really don't know what type we need here. Guess we need a... Can we do something like that? Yeah, for some wrapping. Okay, let me go to the picker documentation. So we are streaming a little longer than planned, but I don't want to finish right in here. Picker Apple documentation. So when creating one, they do it like this. and then they provide here the selected flavor, which is a binding to current selected. Okay, so for now we could just go implement selected group categories, and then we could say category group to model.category, and the category stored here would be the selected one, and for now we just keep it empty, something like that. And then also for the selection action we need to provide another action here, so case category group selected group selection changed, we provide the group and the category that was selected. Now our reducer also has to handle that case, so we have to go inside the reducer and add this new case in here, category group selection, etc. Now we can say state.selected group categories, and for the group it will get the value of the category. Simple as that. Then going back to our view, so this is I'm really doing this fast because of time restrictions. Typically I would go in more details because this is now about the composable architecture details, how things are glued together there, and it can be complicated to follow that if you're not experienced, but yeah, this is how I actually develop it, the normal speed. And now we can create here a binding. That's the goal, because it expects a binding, and we're going to say viewStore binding. Now we can define a binding with a get and set to connect everything together. The getter will get access to our state, so $0 here is the state, and in the state we have our category selected. Okay, auto-completion doesn't work. Let's look it up ourselves. Select the group categories. Select the group categories, and we want to know the value for the group. This can be a nil though. In case this is nil, I think it's fine to have nothing selected. And when a new value is in the picker a specific group is selected, we want it to be sent to our reducer, so we just call send, and now we just send this new action that we've added, which is selected. Make it explicit. Timer action dot selected here. Category group selection changed, and the group is group. The category that was selected is $0. This is basically what the picker is sending us here. This should glue everything together for the binding here. Let's see what the compiler is saying. So the compiler is happy with that part. Now it's saying that the array of categories must be unwrapped, so we have. So let's fall back to an empty array. And here we need also to access it like that. It's saying category is not clear. Let's make it model.category. Initializer for each requires category to conform to identifiable, I guess. Okay, let's do that as well. Category extension. Let's actually go to category group extension because it's basically the same implementation error. Let's build again. Oh wait, forgot to change the type here. Now it should compile. Now we get an error here as well, saying that category must be in wrap. Okay. In this case, okay, so I cannot select nothing. In this case, we'll just fall back to the first group, I guess, from a category from the group. We go to the groups typed categories and just select the first. And in here, cannot convert to closure type timer action. Oh, I just need to pass the timer action, no need for sending here. Cool, so this was a lot of work there, and let's see if that works. That would be magic if that would already work. I doubt that it does. And we're seeing nothing, although we should be seeing something. So something is definitely not working. Let me try to show the preview here. So our category groups are empty here. Are they ever getting filled inside of this category groups? Let's just debug into this. I want to know what the category groups are like after they did appear here. Let me rerun this. It's never entering this. Seriously? It's still building. Oh, okay, it was entering. And now, state dot category groups. What does it look like? Oh, we do have two category groups in there, and their names are task type and project, so that works. After running this code, let me go over here. I expect also the categories by group to not be empty anymore. That works. We can also just go here. Category by groups only has one value for now because it just passed that once. So it's looking like this is fine. But for some reason we're not seeing anything here. That's interesting, but I think that's where we need to stop. So this is basically where we need to continue. Let's document that. Continue here. Fix. I see something white here. That's interesting. Fix the pickers not being shown. Yeah. So let's sum up what we have done here, and let's see if we can commit the current state. Well, this makes sense to commit. This also. This also. This is also looking good to me. I can already see one thing that we forgot. Here in the text, we need to add a tag, and the tag has to be just a category. Just to make sure that each text connects properly to the selection that we have here. Otherwise, it will not work. But that will not fix the UI issue, so just something that came to my mind. And this is the view so far. I will just commit the and the warning there as well, so it's absolutely clear where we continue next time. So what did we do? Implement basic category group selection UI connect to DB. So this is what we have done. Let's add it to the summary. Hello? Okay. Thank you, Jeremy, for telling me that the mic died again. I really don't know what's happening. Never happened before. How much did you miss? So I was basically summarizing this. I don't want to repeat that all. You can also read it here. And yeah, just to close out the stream, I'll be back in 2 weeks. So I am taking off for next week for both the stream and also my blog. So I prepare blog posts on jihad.medium.com. If you don't know that, those yet. Also, a quick reminder that I'm basically really trying to release one blog post every week now, and I have written about it due to my streaming change. So let's also quickly talk on that, repeat that again. So I basically said that I'm changing my streaming schedule, moving my Wednesday stream to Friday morning. That's why we streamed twice today, and streaming now from 11 to 5 p.m. So it's like 5:30 for me already. And instead, I'll write an article each Wednesday starting tomorrow. So that's what I'm doing. And if you want to follow me on Medium, make sure to do that as well. It's just jihad.medium.com. And I actually started this new Swift Evolution Monthly where I'm writing about new stuff coming to Swift in the future. And this is the first issue of that. So if you're interested in that, make sure to check that out. And other than that, we'll see each other in 2 weeks. And also the article I'm skipping next week as well. So I'm also taking off there. Otherwise, we'll see each other in 2 weeks. I thank everyone who has joined the stream in the chat. I thank everyone watching. If you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget to like this video if you liked it. And otherwise, see you around. Have a nice day. Have a nice week. See you in 2 weeks. Bye.